Hi everyone, welcome to Kreativ. My name is Jackie. I'm going to take you step by step tonight through a fabulous painting of this beachscape here. I'm going to be using acrylic paint, but you could have whatever you have is perfect. Watercolor, colored pencils, markers, crayons, whatever you have. I'm also using a canvas today. If you don't have any canvas, you could gesso a piece of paper or even just have a piece of paper and then put a white coat of paint on top of it just to make it a little bit more durable, and then you can go for that. Also using cardboard works too. So we're just going to get started in just a moment, so get your supplies out. I'm going to be using some colors are turquoise, white, orange, brown, a dark blue, black, green, yellow, and orange. But any color will work perfect. And I just have a few different brushes that I'll be using tonight, but whatever works and feels good to you. And just get all comfy. I'll show you my supplies and setup just in a second. But we'll just wait for a few more of our friends to join us. But I hope you're having a wonderful day. The sunshine felt so good today. So just hang on and get your stuff out. All right. We'll get started in just a minute. All right, so I'm just going to show you my supplies and how, if I were sitting, how it would be set up. And then, of course, you can stand while you're painting. I stand all the time while I'm painting. Yeah, let me bring you over to the table over here. It might be shaky for a moment. Sorry about that. But, all right, let me just turn you around. All right, so palette of paint, I just use a paper plate. If I don't have one, I just take a dinner plate and put some tin foil on that bad boy, and then it's really simple, easy cleanup. My colors tonight are turquoise, dark blue, yellow, orange. It is a beautiful one, and so are you. How are you doing? I love all the things you post. Brown, white, green, and I will be adding black in just a little bit. Let's see. So when I am painting at an easel like this, I would have my palette of paint right in front of me, and this is a beautiful painting as well. And I also have something to protect my tabletop with. And I can also try things out, mix colors, whatever I need to do there. Then I have just an assortment of brushes. I basically use about, my big brush. I'll be using the white flat brush, so a nice flat brush. My long, which is another smaller flat brush. And I have a couple details just so I can kind of play with those. And I have a paper towel, my cup of water. Tonight I'm using Craft Smart acrylic. It's a nice beginner acrylic paint, and you don't really need any water to make it move. Of course, you can kind of thin it out and have some washes, which maybe we'll play with. But yeah, just get your plate all set. And if you don't have any supplies and you'd like to join, just let me know and I can meet up with you and give you some supplies for future events, or of course you can just rewatch this one. Let me just move you back. Hi Sarah, how are you? I can't wait to visit you when this is all over. All right, so let's see. So I'm going to grab my palette and we're going to start our painting. Sorry, a little close. All right, so I have a few different brushes, but I'm going to pick up a nice, small flat. I love this brush for drawing with. So here's my drawing edge. I'll show you my edge with a bigger brush real quick. So when I'm using a flat brush, now this is a big flat brush, I want to hold it like a pen or a pencil. And I also want to use that edge. So to get a nice thin line, I use the edge of my brush. I like to pretend that I'm ice skating. So here's my canvas or the ice. Here's the bottom of my ice skate. And all I'm going to do is just slide my ice skate right on that ice or canvas. And I'm going to get a really nice thin line. The more I push, the more bristles. So just kind of play with the amount of pressure that you put on your brush. Of course, you can use the whole width of your brush to fill in big big marks. So with our flat brushes, when I'm trying to get a really nice controlled line, I like to dip my paintbrush in the paint. I don't know what's going on tonight. Paintbrush in the paint, and then I wipe on both flat sides, just compressing the bristles, getting the extra paint off, and then I can have a really nice thin line. So that being said, let's get started. I'm going to find about halfway down my canvas, and I'm using my canvas vertical tonight. All right, let's see. I think that looks good. All right, so we're going to get our horizon line in, which is where our sky meets our water, and I'm going to go nice and flat across. I'm going to find about halfway up on my canvas. You can move that line up or down, whatever you would like, but I'm just going to go about halfway up, and I'm going to be using my light blue. So let me just pull you on over here. All right, here we go. So dipping on into my turquoise or light blue or whatever color makes you happy for your sky, I'm just gonna wipe off the extra paint right there. And I'm gonna find about halfway up on my canvas. Now, if you're concerned about getting the same spot on both sides, just use either if you have a ruler or if you have a nice long brush, you can use that as like a ruler. And so I'm gonna put my bristles down at the bottom. I'm gonna put my finger right where that dot is, and now I'm just gonna bring it right on over here. And I'll make a mark. All right, so let's stand those ice skates up right on that canvas. Take a deep breath. The back of the brush should be pointing right at you, and you're going to slide right across. So let's see. Deep breath. Move your arm all the way across. Now let's make a decision. Do you want the sides of your canvas to be finished? If so, wrap that around. I need to have like a note on my canvas or easel saying, keep bringing that around, because I always forget to finish my edges. So if you're not going to frame these, highly suggest wrapping it. So even if you have to make a note to yourself to do that, go for it. All right, so I'm gonna play with like my big brush, and I'm also gonna play with a bigger flat brush, like my white grip here. So this is just a nice small or medium sized flat brush. Again, whatever feels good. And maybe even my chip brush here. All right, so in my sky, let's take a look at what's going on over here. So in my sky, I have a lot of like these beautiful wispy clouds, and I have like a back and forth here, and then as it starts getting up into like the middle part of my sky, I start bringing it up on an angle and kind of build the top of my clouds. Then I get a little bit more blue sky here, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of a wisp. But the wisp is going to go on an angle. Just going to give it a little bit more motion and a little bit of interest. I always seem to go and play back and forth with my blue and white, which is fun. So just kind of have fun with that. All of our paintings are going to be different. That's what's great about it. The sky is constantly changing, so they're all right. But we're going to focus on our sky right now, and we always can go back to it. I'm going to be using, let's see, I think I'm going to use my big brush, just get a little bit of this bottom area down. Then I'm going to go back in with a flat brush, a smaller flat brush, and add a little bit more detail. I just put my brush right on in the brown, so I'm going to go get a new one, but let's get started. Let's see. All right, good. All right, so I have my flat brush here. I have a big one. Whatever you got's perfect. And let's get started. So I'm going to dip on in, load it on up with that white paint. And I'm just going to put that right on there. So I'm just going to go back and forth. I definitely have brown in my white. Let's just wipe that off. Remember how I was telling you how I needed like a stool or something for my palette? Well, I found that I remembered I had like a plant stand, and it's working fabulous. So fix that problem. All right, so I'm just gonna start building up a little bit of white paint here, just from my horizon line up. And if you're doing those sides, if you didn't make that sticky note, I'll try to remind you, wrap it on over. All right, I'm about halfway up my sky. Keep working it. This is a great arm workout. Sarah, are you gonna do colored pencils with this one here? I'm sorry, it's a little bit of a delay, so So if you say something, I'm not ignoring you. It just takes a little while for me to get it. But Sarah, I wonder, yeah. Let me know if you're doing colored pencils with this or you're gonna go back to do the one that I did the other day. So I have my white all the way up, halfway up my canvas. Now I'm gonna put that big brush down, going back or going to my white grip flat brush here, dipping on into my turquoise or light blue, whatever I have, whatever feels good. And I'm gonna just wipe off on both flat sides just because I wanna start very slowly adding my blue. And I don't have to go all the way across, and this is really a great painting because it's like a slow build. If you did do the color pencil project with me yesterday, we really did realize that it's a slow build. It's, you know, keep adding layers and layers and layers. And we're kind of doing that here too. So it kind of carries right on over. So I'm starting from the edge and I'm pushing or pulling into my canvas. I'm using the side of my brush. If my brush gets super saturated with paint, I can just give it a quick wipe. And maybe I'm going to go and move over to the other side. And I'm going to just start brushing it in. Carrie Ann, I miss, was it Red Jack's or Red Face? I forget what it's called, but that place was great. We had a lot of fun there. So hopefully someday we'll be back. All right, so I'm feeling good about this so far, and I'm going to maybe start bringing it over here, maybe dipping my brush into the white too. So I have blue and I have some white on there. And now I'm going to start thinking about this, this space up here. So I'm going to get a nice diagonal in. I have white and some blue in there. So I'm going to just move up just a little bit and just kind of get like a nice, we'll go back in and add, I'm going to add some white. We'll go back in and add some definition to this and add some brights. But for now, I'm just going to start getting a little bit of a slope in here, which I have. And now I'm going to continue up. So from here, I have a lot of lights and darks going on. I like the way it feels so far. I know I'm going to go back into it and add more to it. But for now, I'm going to just give my brush a quick little wipe off. And then I'm going to dip on into the turquoise again. And I'm going to start in this section. So I know this is going to be a little bit darker, at least in my painting. And I'm just going to start kind of filling it in. I'm going to put my clouds back on top of this blue sky. So I'm just going to stop it right there where I'm just going to let it touch. I'm not going to blend it in like we would normally do or we have normally done. Painting my sides. Oh, I'm being good today. All right. And I'm going to go up here. I'm just kind of getting it on. I'm just kind of blocking in my color right now. And I know I'm going to go back in and add, some interest. All right, there we go. Everything's sliding for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to just continue on. All right, I like that. That feels good. Why don't I just pick up my big brush and I'm going to dip right on into my blue and I'm just going to finish it off. So it already had white on there. So I'm just going to welcome that and just going in, filling in the rest. I think I need to tighten this guy up. So today I had like the best thing happen to me. So I was dropping off some supplies at one of our friends today at their house this afternoon, and there were some kids playing outside, and I hear, my windows are open, and I hear, "There's Jackie, the art lady." I'm like, what? And it was the cutest thing in the whole world, and I can't believe they recognized me like in my car. It was really sweet. Art lady. All right, that feels really good. So I'm super excited about that. I have like a nice mix down here of some really wispy clouds. And I think this is morning, so I think this is like all gonna burn off and it's gonna be a beautiful, just blue day, but blue sky. But there are just a few clouds in the morning here, and I have this nice little angle here. And now I'm gonna continue building my, my clouds on an angle just to add some interest. So now that I have this base down, I'm gonna go back on into this one here, and I'm going to start by using my flat brush, this one here, and I'm just gonna give it a quick little wipe off. And so I wipe my brush off. Let me just show you, just to protect my bristles. I never scrub the bottom. I'm just using it on the sides, and I just pull like from like the metal part and pull there, because I never want to blow out my bristles. These are just, when they're nice and tight, they're just so good. So I just try to be very, treat them very, very well when I'm washing or wiping. All right, so that feels good. So let's continue on. And I am going to put my brush back in the white paint. And I am going to start introducing, while this is a little wet still, some clouds up here. So I'm going to use the edge of my brush, and I'm going to just start building up slowly. So I'm just going to start pulling. And I'm just going to do this on an angle, just kind of change it up a little bit. And I'm going to slowly build it up. So it might be really mixing with that blue, but allowing just a little bit of a tint, and that's great. We can go back and add some more brights on top. Maybe there's just a few down here. You can flatten out anywhere you'd like. Or if you're like, I don't know about that, go ahead and add your blue back to that. I'm also going to just kind of finish this edge here. Aww. And I'm just going to go ahead and finish this right here. Just kind of cleaning up. You can add a little bit of blue to this to make it a little bit less opaque. I kind of like that, but you know what? Maybe I will add just a little bit of blue just to soften it, because I don't want it to be like really cloudy. I just want it to be just a slight morning haze. It's going to be a beautiful day in this picture. So a few kind of cool things that are going on. So my good friends own the Plymouth Exchange on Main Street in Plymouth. And I mean, they have amazing antiques. They have tons of jewelry. They have artwork. They have, you know, real Picassos. They have Dalis. They have, you know, just amazing artists. And just beautiful work, and you know, it's great that we can all buy that. Like, they're great prices and all that. But anyway, so they're moving, and they asked me to do an online like QVC, and you all know how I feel about that. So I'm gonna be doing like an online like QVC-esque sale of artwork and of jewelry. So I'm very, very excited about it. I'll share it on here because it's just gonna be funny. This is one of the rings. If you see it, it's 14 karat gold and diamonds. Isn't that nice? But yeah, so I'll definitely share, because it's just, you're gonna laugh at me probably more than you're laughing at me now, but that's okay. It's still fun, but it's gonna be some really cool art and at really great prices and jewelry. So I will let you guys know about that a little bit more when I find out the actual dates, but that should be really fun. All right, so let's look at this painting again over here and focus at the top of the canvas. And I have some kind of like, there's a little bit of like a different shapes of clouds up here, and I'm going to create that on this side now. So using my edge of my brush, I'm going to really focus on that edge, all right? And I'm going to almost create like kind of zigzaggy. They don't have to be the whole, it's like a Z or like an M or a W, but just kind of let your hand pull your brush back a little bit further, a nice light hand, and just see what happens. Just creating a little bit of interest The sky, the clouds sometimes, you know, have these really cool textures and patterns that they create. And I just have that going on. So there's a lot of beautiful things happening in this painting so far. And I'm going to just keep building. And if I was like, uh-oh, I think I went too far, I'm just going to put a little bit of that turquoise back on, or my light blue, and then I almost can kind of dust it away, erase it away, soften it. But I think I'm happy with this so far. All right. Cool. All right. So that feels good. Maybe I'll soften right here just a little bit more. So I'm just going to add a little white, a little bit of blue, and just soften that here. Throw that back on. All right, yeah, that feels good. Cool. All right, moving on. Let's take a look. So I'm going to just scoot this back. All right. So I have just a little bit of water here, and I also have like a little bit of a hill. So what I'm going to do, so I don't have to just paint my water and then have to paint my sand on top of it, I'm going to create the water's edge and incorporate that little hill of sand right here. So it's going to go nice and flat, maybe getting a little bit thinner and closer to that line, horizon line, and then I'm just going to curve it up. All right, so I am going to grab my long brush, so it's my great one to draw with. I just gave it a quick wash and a wipe, and I'm going to use, let's see, I'm going to do a white and a little bit of orange line for my shoreline. And it's going to start about, what is that, about an inch and a quarter, inch and a half. And I'm going to go, and it's going to start getting a little bit closer to my horizon line, almost creating like a wedge a little bit. And then I'm going to just kind of let it arch up. All right. Of course, you can change yours however you'd like it. So I'm going to do white. And I'm just going to put a little bit of orange, and I'm just going to mix that right on my side, just very light, just so I can see it. But I'm going to go over it. So I'm just getting a nice. All right, so back to our painting. Let's go ahead and find a good point down here. That feels good. Now I'm going to start just riding that edge. This is great when you're doing these things to really kind of practice that, getting that thin line, because we'll need that thin line in our grass and in our posts. All right, so I'm just going across, getting closer and closer to my horizon line until I just kind of give it like a nice gentle slope up. So I went about an inch and a half, 2 inches, whatever feels good, down, and I started getting a little closer to my horizon line, running parallel, just getting a little closer, and then creating a slight little hill. I can go up and over my sky, or I can just kind of meet that. I kind of just met it. That feels good. Now I'm going to go ahead and add that color into my background, or my water. So I like to kind of focus my horizon line, keeping that super flat. When I look out there, even when it's a little stormy, I notice that line where the sky meets the water, it is flat. I also notice that way back there is going to be darker, and it gets a little bit lighter as it comes closer to me. So I think I'm going to stick with this guy. This guy feels good, so I'm just going to use my small flat. You can use whatever you like. Just keep in mind when you're painting, you want to use what's best for the size you're working on, right, of the space on your canvas. And I'm going to go ahead and dip into my turquoise to start. And I'm going to just start cleaning up my horizon line. So get comfy. Remember your easel or your canvas is not stuck on your easel. If your canvas is laying flat, definitely prop it up every once in a while. Step away from your canvas. Take a picture of your artwork. Look at it on your phone. For some reason, it's like magic. So I'm just going in. I'm going to do the same thing, the wet on wet. So I'm adding my pure turquoise right now, and I'm just cleaning up my horizon line. That is too funny. Karen, you have like the cutest two little puppies ever. I love that they're starting to be friends. All right, so now using Craft Smart paint, it's great, and it's great for beginners. But if you want to step it up, the 12-pack of acrylics that I'm selling, if you can't get your own, are definitely a heavier body, and the colors are just a little bit more, the pigment is more intense, and it's really kind of like a nice consistency. So if you're looking to kind of step up your supplies, just send me a message. I can even just send you what I would suggest for you to get, and you can order it, or I'd be happy to meet you. And so I have like my turquoise. I didn't even go all the way down to my line, but now I'm going to go ahead with my dark blue, or just any kind of darker blue. If you don't have a darker blue, you could use a dark green. And I'm just going to focus this on my back area, so near my horizon line. And I'm just taking my time so I don't keep bringing my horizon line up, which I just kind of did, but that's okay. I'm just working it nice and light, bringing it down. And now I'm going to start just letting it blend out. I can add a little bit of turquoise and just kind of blend that bottom edge in, and I can keep adding I can keep going and adding more turquoise all the way down to blend that away. I'm going to go right to that horizon line, or not horizon line, that sand edge with that turquoise. And now I'm going to start bringing in a little bit of white using just the edge of my brush. So this is going to create a little bit of movement, a little bit of reflection. So I'm using that edge of my brush. And I'm just not worrying about it. I'm letting my back edge just kind of be, so that darker part. So about starting like the middle of my water, just kind of going down, back and forth. Again, a super light hand, using just the tip of my bristles. And that feels good. Perfect. I like it. I'm not going to touch it. Sometimes if you just keep going, it's like, I wish I didn't. So I'm just going to step away from it now. And if I feel like I need to touch it later, there we go. I can go back into it, but I'm happy with that. All right, done. Looks good. So I'm going to clean off my white grip, so my medium flat brush. We have a pretty big section to fill. If you have another flat brush, another chip brush, or if you want to go clean yours right now, you really want to dry it well because you don't want drips. You could totally use that because we do have a pretty big space to fill. And I am going to bring you right over here. All right, so let me turn, sorry. All right, so I have a nice little hill or mound of sand here, and it's also kind of, the grass here is casting a shadow, right? So I have a little bit of a shadow cast in my sand, which I added a little bit of blue to. And then I have my bright sunshines hitting this here, which is going to be my orangey brown. And then there's some dips in the sand that the wind has created, or people's walking, and then the wind blowing the sand in and filling it. So I have some little dips or darks in there just to add that interest. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start our base coat of sand, and that's going to be my light. So I'm going to focus it on this side here, brushing it in, and I'm going to be using white paint, and I'm also going to be using some orange and maybe even a little bit of brown. With your sand, every beach is different, right? Every beach sand is different. So once you get that paint moving, just kind of say to yourself, should my sand be a little bit darker, a little bit more white, a little more orange? Once you get it on there mixing, you'll know. So let's go ahead and bring you back over here. All right. And I'm going to grab my white, and I'm going to grab a little orange, and I'm just going to mix that on the side again. And I know it's like orange, but it really does look very beach sandy. So I just have my orange with my white, lots of white, a little bit of orange, build it up as much as you'd like. I just kind of mixed it. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to get like my slope in first. So I'm going to find the top of my slope here, and I'm just going to drop it down. So right here, and I'm just going to drop it down. And then I'm just going to flatten it out. So about in the middle of my sand, so drop it down, find that middle, and then I'm going to flatten it out just a little bit. There's no wrong to this. Every mound of sand is different. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and start filling in my light sand. So white, a little bit of orange. Now that's pretty intense, but I'm going to continue on because I know I can just add a little bit more once I get going. I'm going to add some more white. And I'm going to add just a tiny little corner, just a little bit of brown right there. Just going to see what that does. Kind of tone it down just a little bit. And once that warm shadow sand is on there, it's going to help tone this down as well. So in this section here, I'm really just going to allow that just kind of have like a rough edge here, because I'm going to bring that that sand over and on top of it. So I'm just going to continue on filling in, not even worrying about it, just going past the edge of that curve here. So I have my orange and white. I could even add a little bit of brown. I'm just using a tiny bit. I really like how the orange is working for my sand. And I remembered to bring that right on over to the edge of my canvas and wrap it around. Dipping back into my white if I need to. And if there's some lights and darks variations in your sand, that's perfect. So if you're like trying to get it super solid, I like having those variations. I think it's more realistic than having flat, but it's whatever style you're kind of going for. All right, so I'm going to start introducing that shadow. So let me bring you back over. All right, so I'm going to be using orange and white, but I'm also going to be using a little bit of my darker blue to get that shadow in. So I'm going to fill in my little mound here, and then if you notice that I have a really nice kind of like edge here, so I don't have a solid rounded edge or just an abrupt stop. My grass is all different lengths, so that's why I have all these different lengths, and so are my posts, right? So I have all these kind of different edges or stops here, jagged edges here. So see how that overlaps? So let's go ahead and do that over here. All right. All right, so I'm gonna grab some more white paint. I'll be right back. I definitely used quite a bit of white in this. All right. Okay, here we go. So my white, let's see what happens. My orange, gonna get a little bit off my brush. And now I'm gonna add, let's go slow. I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of that darker blue. Do I use both left and right hand when I'm painting? I don't think so. But I wish I did, because I'm right-handed and I hurt my shoulder in 7th grade. and sometimes it's really sad and hurts a lot to hold my brush up. But I should learn how to paint with my left hand too. Maybe if they like prolong that'll be like my goal. All right, so yeah, I'm liking that color so far. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. And I'm just gonna switch on over, sorry. And I'm going to add the same colors, and I'm just gonna soften that. I'm just going to really get that, just kind of letting it blend right on my canvas. I know it's kind of crazy looking, but I promise you, it will get there. So I'm just gonna, remember that curve to like halfway down in your canvas? Let's get that in. There's gonna be all fence posts here, so that's good. And I'm just going in. All right, so now here, this is where I'm gonna start. And I'm going to get my like shortest line, and then it's gonna kind of build up, just like my fence posts build up, and then I can come back down. So let me just show you one more time. Over here, if you notice, my grass is going like this, and we'll get that blue color, I promise. So we're just gonna start right on top. So I'm gonna go back over here, and I'm just gonna continue on pulling. Just be really free about it. All right, now I'm gonna start filling this in. I'm gonna focus using some more blue and white. I'm using a dark blue, Craft Smart dark blue. So when I'm adding these jagged edges here, I'm brushing flat, and I'm brushing from my dark shadow out. And I know that I can always pull my bright sand on in. So I'm gonna just continue on and just adding a little bit more white and dark blue and just filling this on in. I'm gonna go back and add probably a little bit more of that sandy color in there as well. Now, we've talked about it before, but let's just kind of go over it. If you're like, I really need that to go away. So instead of just adding a whole bunch of Band-Aids on top of it and keep working, my tip to you is grab a little piece of paper towel and wipe it out. Let it dry, go over it. If it has kind of like stained your canvas, you could put a little bit of white paint, but still wipe it out. Put a little white on there, let it dry. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna now start working on my light sand again. So I'm gonna give my brush a quick wash wipe. So I'm loving all of the photos of your workspaces and you working. So if you could, I would love to see yours, even if it's like a giant mess at the end, that's the best. So just send me a picture in a private message or a comment in below, a picture of you working in your space. I would love to see it. So just going in with some more white and orange and just kind of playing and just bringing, now going into those little pieces of staggered lines. I know I'm going to go back and finish off those the shadows of the posts once I get them in. So right now I'm just kind of playing with my sand, adding a little bit more white here and there, keeping that brush stroke flat. All right, if I want, I can now, this is a little dry, I can go in with a little bit of orange and white here and there. Just think about where you're painting. Right here it's flat, but maybe here it would be like on an angle because that would be my hill. I know you're like, what is this? I promise, we got this. All right, that feels good. Okay, so let's let this dry just for a moment. While we're waiting, we could add a few little dips in our sand here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So over here in my sand, I just added a little bit of, just using the edge. I'm probably gonna use my long brush because it's smaller. So we definitely need to give that a wash, but I'm just going to use kind of like just little dashes. They're pretty flat, those dashes. And I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use like a brown orange combo. So I'm just going to put a little orange on the side, maybe a little bit of brown. If I need to add some white, I sure can. A little bit of white. So I'm just getting a little bit darker color of my sand. All right, let's see what happens. So I'm going to focus in the top part because the top section here, can you see all that? Yeah, I think you can. So in this part here, this is closest to us. This is where I'd see like the detail. Back here, I don't really see as much detail because it's really further away. It's far away, right? So I'm just going to go in this part here. Oh yeah, I got that color good. And I'm just kind of adding a few little dips here and there. They can be different lengths. If you don't like them, you can kind of just let them blend out and just have them a little bit more subtle. I'm just focusing in here. So I'm going to let it kind of fade out because I don't want to add too much interest back there. And if you're like, ooh, I think I went too much, just maybe add a little bit of white and just blend it out. I like to use this the tips of my bristles. I feel as though I'm kind of like dusting away. And then if I want to try it again, I can just add a few little guys over here. And I can make my marks going off my canvas saying there's more beyond the edge. All right, so that feels good. I already really like how that's coming along. All right, so I'm just letting my blue area, my shadowed area, just kind of dry for a moment, and I'm going to introduce my fence posts in a moment. So I'm going to give my brush just a quick little wipe off. So wipe, wash, wipe. Let's see. All right, so I'm just going to use this one again. I have a nice edge to it, and I'm going to show you over here. All right, I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So this is nice and light. Remember, it's morning. I just wanted it to be very easy feeling. So I have one post here. That's going to be my biggest one. And then I just really, all of these are just little lines. But if you notice, my highest post, which is going to be my biggest, and then these guys here are just lines, but look, they go shorter as they go. And I have main post, and then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You can definitely practice this out on a piece of scrap paper. Just kind of get it, you know, once you do it, then you're like, oh yeah, all right, I get it. So it's like bars on a cell phone, right? That kind of tall to short. And I played with just white and a little tiny bit of black. And so white, a little bit of black, and I'm going to make my line, and then I can add like a little bit of a darker edge. I mean, it's like barely there, and it's not even like the whole length, right? It's just kind of very softly there. It really just is enough. So I have all those. So my main, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7, and then main is 8. And then all I have connecting is just this like little wiry thing, I think that they are, connecting it. And it's just a line, and it's just a little wavy, or it can be straight if you want, but in my picture, it's a little kind of, you know, been in a storm or two. Also, let's see, they're pretty straight, right? And like I said, big posts, and as they go down, they're shorter, and those are just really just lines going up. So let's not overthink this part. I know it's a fence, but it's just lines. So I'm gonna bring you back on over, and I'm gonna grab my palette, and I am going to put some black on mine because I didn't add that yet. And if you haven't already wiped off your brush, give it a quick little wipe off. All right, here we go. So I'm going to find, and if I don't have, you know, my painting will tell me how many posts to put in, right? I'm saying I'm going to go for 8 total, but I might only have 5, and that's fine. And you might only have 4, fine. But let's kind of just find out with our paintbrush, let's figure out where this is going to be. So, let's see. I am going to, I feel like here is good for me. Just kind of showing you. And I'm going to get my first line in there. I think I'm just going to go for it. And I'm just going to think I want it to start here. So that's great. I know that. Now I'm just going to put my brush here once more and just see how tall I want it. I want it to be about 1.5 inches higher than my horizon line because it's really close to me. So it's like right there, right? All right, so that feels good. So now I'm kind of picturing it. I'm gonna make a super light gray. I'm using some black and white. You could even throw in some blue in there if you wanted to be a little bit more of like a beachy, beech wood, or what's it called? Driftwood. There we go. All right, so I wiped on both flat sides. Hey Mark, how are you? I didn't drop your mail off, sorry. All right, so I have my gray here. I pictured it. I'm having my end point here. Now I'm just gonna go back up because I know I wanna go about 1.5 inches, 2 inches up into my sky. So right there, okay. So now let's just go ahead, take a deep breath, put your ice skate right on that canvas and just slide it whichever way you're going, up or down. All right, I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker, just a little bit. So I don't know, less than 1/2 inch. That looks good to me. Let's see. If you have a long brush like me, it's about the width of that. I'm guessing that's about 1/2 inch or so, but I forget. All right, so there it is. I'm just gonna kind of draw parallel, or I could just drag my brush right down. So very small. You always can build it up. It doesn't have to be a giant, giant post, right? It's this delicate little beach fence. Driftwood, yes. All right, and while I'm here and while this is wet, I'm gonna say that my sun is rising or is over here, so my darker part is gonna be on this side here. So with this a little bit more black right on my brush, I wiped it off so I don't have too much. I got a little brown on there too, but I'm gonna welcome it. And just on this edge here, I'm just going to run right down it. And again, it doesn't have to be solid. It doesn't have to be the whole. But in that shadow there, it does kind of define it a little bit. All right, that feels good. Okay, so from there, I'm going to add my other post. I'm gonna bring you over here one more time because I want to show you the bottom. Let me bring you over here. Okay, so if you notice, here's flat, right? So check this out. That's the bottom, and then check out the top. The angle's down on the top and is up here. All right, so I'm going to get my bottom dots here. Then I know that they're just gonna go shorter as I go, okay? So first I'm gonna get my angle here. So it's an angle up. and just kind of going like this. I kind of see where that is. All right, get it. Going over here. Now I can soften my post over here if I wanted after or whatever, but just get that down. And I'm just going to get my slight angle, and I'm focusing in this dark area. So I know I'm not going to add my fence post in my light sand, so that already kind of set things up for me, right? All right, so I'm going to put my furthest one out here. One, and I'm just going to make kind of like a little line up because I know they're going up. So now from here in my dark sand, I'm going to go backwards, knowing I'm going to get a little bit lower as I go, right? So here we go. Here we go. How many do I get? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, I got 6. I had 7 in the other one. I'm happy. So I have 6. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 7 total. I'm happy with that. So now I know I'm going to go this post is going to be the tallest. My next post is going to be shorter. So I'm going to ride up and I'm going to stop. All right. And I can change my color, make it lighter or darker as I go. Now I'm going to go up, and you're like, oh no, it's like really disappearing in my shadow sand. Well, that's okay. We'll go back. And if you're like, well, it's not even having a solid line, totally fine. We'll get there. All right, and I'm gonna go up. And if they're not completely evenly spaced, it's fine. Whoever did it, just built it that way. So this next one, I'm gonna bring this up and up a little bit more. My next one, I'm gonna get even shorter, okay? So starting from here, and I'm gliding up, and I'm gonna stop. Same thing, glide up, stop. Glide up, getting shorter, one more. You might have more. Cool, all right, there it is. So now I'm just gonna take my time and go back and just say, all right, does it need to be a little bit lighter? Do I wanna have one side be lighter? If so, it'd be the same as my big post here. So maybe I can lighten up this side here a little bit. I can go in. If you wanted to add a little bit of brown to it, whatever feels good. I'm gonna add a little bit of a darker side. This is like you really can take your time. And also, it doesn't have to be done in one night. You can get all your base colors blocked in, get the idea down, and then go back tomorrow, the next day, work on it for a few minutes here and there. That's what it's all about. You don't have to sit there and finish it in one night. All right, there it is. Cool. All right, so I'm going to just add my little wire. So I'm going to grab my detail brush. I found this little crazy brush. It's really long. I'm going to see what happens with this guy. So let's see. All right. So I'm going to just kind of picture how I want my wire connecting. So it's just going to be up here. Something like that. All right, that's cool. And I'm going to go in using my pinky as a little kickstand. All right, there it is. Cool. All right, so I feel good about that. And again, if I wanted to, I could go back in later and add, more of a highlight here and there, or a shadow, or whatever I'd like. But for now, after I do this, I'm good. All right, cool. Let's go and check out what's going on over here. So we have our fence in. Now we have to add some grass. So I find with grass, I find that adding 500 pieces, I find adding different lengths, adding crisscrossing pieces, adding different colors. So I have like a yellow and white, I have yellow brown, I have yellow green, pure brown. I have all these different layers and different colors because as grass grows, the big pieces will die and there's new growth, and you want all these different textures and colors in there. Throughout, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. If I look at my painting here, I notice that I don't have as much brown down here. It's a little bit more light colors, light greens and whites, but it's like I can slowly build up. Also, if you notice when you look at these grass pieces, there's like sometimes like broken old pieces that have kind of fallen or broke and just kind of hang in there. And that's what I added here, just kind of show that there's some weight to it, just kind of set it down. Also, I added a little bit of shadow there, which we'll do. Hi, Pa. And I'm just gonna add a little bit of shadow in there. But so this, again, you don't have to add all of your grass right now. We can do it slowly and build it up. So I'm going to also kind of go with that. If you've painted with me before, that little trick of just adding like a little bit of white water to my paint. So what I'm going to do is add, just grab another plate because mine got kind of wild, and I'm just going to scoop out a little bit, and then I'm going to add that little drop of water. So I'll do that with you in just a moment. So let me go grab another plate. Be right back. All right, so I'm going to start with just a few colors. I'm just going to grab a little bit of yellow, put that on my plate, a little scoop of, and you can just use your palette. I was kind of holding mine crazy and it was kind of sliding around. Yours is probably perfect, so you don't have to do this, but I'm just going to grab a little bit of the colors that I'm going to be using. So I'm using some yellow, some brown, some green, white. All right, so I just have a little bit of paint here and there. And now I can take my brush. I'll take another, like my long brush, and I'm just going to dip it on into my water. And I'm just going to add like a few drops of water into each little puddle of paint. And I'm just going to mix it in with my detail brush when I'm going to use that paint. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to add a little white, and I'm going to add a little yellow. So making a very light yellow. And with that, that dot of water, it's really letting that paint move very easily. So I'm not going to have a hard time dragging my brush up, creating that piece of grass. So with my detail brush, it's a round brush. And what I'm going to do is kind of roll it on the side of my plate like I'm sharpening a pencil, getting all the extra paint off. And I might want to set my canvas flat or hold it in my lap, whatever is easier to get my lines, because sometimes it's tricky holding it up straight. Also, this is a great time to, step away from your canvas, pick up, a test canvas or paper, and just really practice getting your lines down. So I'm going to be using my detail brush, and I might even go right to my long brush as well, because I've practiced so much that I'm comfortable with getting a pretty thin line with my my flat. So I'm going to focus here. Let's bring you on over. Well, actually, I'll show you here first. So right up here, the base of my grass kind of does follow and create a slight little curve. The bottoms are different lengths, so they go, they're not all on one plane. One's a little longer than the other. And as they go up, my wind is maybe blowing a little bit this way. So my grass, not all of it, but the long ones are just kind of going with that wind. And my light colors are going to be more of a filler than at first. And then I can make some bright ones in the front. But right now, I'm just going to start building up. And actually, this might be a good time to use my long brush. I'm going to start with this little guy first. Let's see. All right. So I'm just going to think about how long I want them. Yeah, I'm going to grab my long brush. Just because I'm going to put all those little pieces on top of it. And so my first couple layers, I don't really have to be that precise and that like tight. But if I'm just using the very tips of my bristles, I'm getting a very thin line. And my brush is nice. I'm taking good care of it. So the bristles are nice and tight. So maybe they're going to get a little shorter down here because they're getting a little further away from us, going down that little hill. So I'm going to start with this color, making all my little mounds of grass. And these are kind of crisscrossing. I'm going to do a few nice little long ones, staggering those bottom edges. If you're doing your sides, if you want to wrap it around, it'd be a really cool effect to see that grass wrap right around. All right, I'm going to do another little grouping here, and it is going to overlap on the bottom of my grass. Yours, you may say, well, I don't really want that to happen, so you don't have to. You can just make your grass pieces shorter, but I'm going to do like something like this. Practice getting that nice sharp line. I'm putting the whole bottom of my brush standing up, and all I'm doing is sliding, okay? So barely putting any pressure on there and just sliding up. So I did post, I think today, I feel like today's been like 5 days in one, but anyway, I did post today, I think, a few upcoming events. I have a couple kids ones and some other great paintings. I probably will be throwing a few others in there as well, also including some crayon, and also some adult or colored pencil, which I'm having a lot of fun with. I used to use colored pencil a lot. Let me just stop for a second, I'm sorry. I'm going to go right in between my posts. And of course they can overlap, right? Bend right in front. Alright, I'm going to add a little piece here too. Yeah, so I'm really enjoying using the colored pencil, and I think you'd really like it too. And it's also really cool because I like to bring them to the beach. I like bringing them, you know, sitting outside. It's super easy because it's no cleanup, and also it really helps with painting. So if you're loving painting and you want even to get better at it, I highly suggest playing with some colored pencils. I just started the videos using just a simple Crayola. I'm going to put another little grouping right here. I'm going to do some up, and then I'm just going to fold some down. So I just have, right now I'm just playing with those like a 12 pack or whatever, but I am going to show you a few other great, and they're not very expensive either, but just the quality, you know, I'm just going to show you a few different upgrades to some colored pencils and also some blending techniques. So I think you're really going to like it. And I will be doing more of those. I used to play with color pencil all the time, and I kind of got away from it, and I'm just really realizing how much I love it. All right, I think that feels good. All right, we have like 500 layers to go, but I really have a nice base down. And now I'm going to go ahead and I think I'm going to do, I'm just going to add a little bit of brown to my yellow concoction here. So I have a nice kind of light brown, and now I don't have to add as many of all of these next colors. This is kind of like my base. Now I can kind of go in and definitely here and there stepping away. We're going to get all of our colors in, but step away. You don't have to have them equally spread throughout. They don't all have to have the same, you know, each little bundle doesn't have to have the same amount of brown. Add a few going in here. Wiping on both flat sides. All right, that feels good. Now I'm going to go even darker brown. So I'm just going right on into my brown, just kind of wiping what I got on my brush on both flat sides. And I'm just going to introduce, again, we don't need the same amount here and there on every little, maybe, woo, got right in that green. Maybe a few little short guys over here. Longer ones. All right, so down here, I'm only going to do like 2 long ones, or maybe something like that. All right, and maybe just a few little guys on that bottom, just very loosely. If your brush is getting saturated, just mine is. I have a ton of paint on there. I'm going to wipe my brush off before I do anything else. All right, continuing on, just adding maybe a few of those broken pieces down here. And then just maybe a few long ones or mediums. And riding right on that edge. And just a few here and there. All right, cool. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just grab, or maybe give my brush a quick little wipe wash if you need to, because I'm going to switch over to some greens. So I have a little bit of that white yellow combo, so I'm just going to add some of that green to it, wiping on both flat sides. And now I'm going to go ahead and start building up. Remember, we don't need the same amount throughout. Different lengths, different little crisscrosses. Step away. Ask whoever's with you what they think. You don't have to listen to them though. All right. So this is a nice spring warm morning. All right, I'm going to wipe my brush off. I'm going to add a little bit of more of that just pure green now. I'm using Apple Tart, I believe. Yeah, Apple Tart. And I'm just going to get a few nice brand new pieces of grass growing here and there. And I think I might go, I could go back and add some more of like my yellow whites or my browns, whatever. I'm going to pick up my detail brush real quick, and I'm just going to add a little bit more kind of almost like writing in cursive, just pretending you're like, I don't know, write your name kind of, just like I'm holding my brush further back and I'm just showing that there's like some, broken dried pieces down there. Like write a little some word in there no one would know and you would only know. But yeah, add a little bit more brown here. So step away, see what your canvas needs. I think I'm going to do just a little bit more down here, and then we'll just add our shadows in and go over any little details we want to add, and then we're done. I had fun with this painting. I hope you did too. All right, so I'm going to add just a little bit of shadow underneath, and I'm going to grab my other palette, and I'm just going to bring you over here real quick. So I could keep building my layers of grass if I wanted to over there. I haven't stepped away, so I'm not quite sure what I need. I think I wanted to add maybe a little bit more taller pieces of grass in my fence post, or maybe I do like it. I don't know. I'm going to step back. Then I'm going to add just a few little pieces or little dashes of my dark blue with a little bit of white. So we don't want it too different from our shadow sand, but I do want it to show just like what we did in our shadow sand over here, or our little dips in our sand in the sunny sand. All right, so let's go ahead and just see what happens. All right, I'm thinking I like that color, and I'm just being very light, kind of just using it like a, just like a feather, just flat, or just kind of going with whatever shape your little hill is, wherever you are. All right, so now what I'm going to do, I'm just going to focus one more spot, and I'm just going to pull from here. So I already know, right, I already have those lines there, but just kind of make it a little bit more. So from the bottom, and I'm going to just kind of bring them all out in the same direction. It doesn't have to be solid. And I'm going to go in and just add, remember those little dips in the sand that were created maybe by the wind, or maybe footsteps that are starting to fill in. And maybe I'll soften this a little bit more by adding just a little bit more white on my brush and just softening. And you don't have to add these. I just feel like it, when I step back, I really like the way that looks. So I'm just going in. Yeah, I think we nailed that one. I think that was good. So I could go in, I could add some birds flying. If you do, I would highly suggest adding or practicing on your paper or on a test canvas, your birds, keeping them small, just nice and small, unless you want a pterodactyl, whatever you like. But yeah, you would keep going in, building up. You could add more pieces of grass, step away from it for a little while, then go back into it. But I hope you had fun. I do have those new dates that I posted earlier today in the Facebook page. Please share. And if you have any ideas, I do have, I keep getting a lighthouse. I do have a small lighthouse coming up, but I will have a bigger one for us coming up as well. Yeah, I think that's it. I had so much fun with you tonight. Thank you so much. And I will all see you guys later. Have a good night. Bye.